on the 26th of January 1917. The sun casting long shadows over the modest streets, where the breath of a young town rises and falls like the rhythm of a runner's pace. From within a small, humble house, the sound of tense murmurs mingles with the crack of a wood-burning stove. Outside, a father paces the length of the porch, his hands restless, his gaze darting towards the window each time a voice rises. The stillness hangs heavy, as if the world itself were waiting for a signal to spring forward. Then a cry, strong, defiant, pierces the air, splitting the quiet open like the crack of a starter's pistol. A boy has arrived, born into the very dawn of America's 20th century, bringing with him a spirit that would one day defy not just distance or time, but the very limits of human endurance. Here begins the journey of Louis Zamperini, whose path would soon lead far beyond the calm streets of this small town, carrying him into the realms of glory, despair, and ultimately redemption. When he was 2, his Italian immigrant parents decided to move the family to Torrance, California, where the young Louis faced numerous challenges adapting to American life. Speaking only Italian at first, he struggled in school and was often the target of bullies, which led him to become a scrappy, rebellious child who frequently got into trouble. He developed a reputation for petty theft, fights, and running away from authority figures. This early rebellious streak wasn't just about mischief. It was a survival mechanism, giving him the sense of control in an environment where he felt different and disadvantaged. Zamperini's natural athleticism played a crucial role in turning his life around. At the encouragement of his older brother Pete, he took up running as a way to channel his energy positively. Although initially reluctant, he soon found that he had the knack for it, and running became his ticket out of trouble. By the time he was in high school, Louis was setting records, capturing the attention of coaches and newspapers alike. This raw talent and relentless drive made him a local sports hero, earning him the reputation for his speed and determination on the track. This newfound passion helped reshape his life, steering him away from his troubled past and giving him a sense of purpose. With his newfound dedication to running, Zamperini trained tirelessly, often clocking in the miles before and after school, pushing himself to the limit on the dirt tracks of Torrance. His training regime was intense. He ran in every kind of weather and even raced against freight trains for fun and extra motivation. Driven by a fierce competitive spirit, he broke the national high school record in 1934 with a time of 4 minutes and 21.2 seconds, a record that would stand for nearly 20 years. The cheers from the stands and the recognition from the local community fueled his ambition, and his performances soon caught the eye of college scouts and the national athletic community. Training under the guidance of coaches who recognized his potential, Zamperini's speed and stamina continued to improve. He earned a scholarship to the University of Southern California, where he further honed his skills. Competing against some of the best collegiate runners in the country, he quickly made his mark in the NCAA circuit. Consistently finishing at the top in the mile and other middle distance events, the constant grind and focus on shaving off every second paid off, as his achievements in college races earned him the reputation of one of America's most promising young runners. By 1936, his impressive times and relentless work ethic led to an invitation to try out for the US Olympic team, a dream opportunity that seemed almost unthinkable just a few years prior. The 1936 US Olympic trials were held in New York City, where he competed in the 5,000 metre event. Despite being a miler, Zamperini had trained hard for the longer distances, knowing it would be his best chance to make the team. In the sweltering heat and battling exhaustion, he found himself falling behind the leading runners during the final lap. But with a characteristic burst of speed, he closed the gap, sprinting with such ferocity that he finished in a dead heat for first place, securing his spot on the US Olympic team. It was a dramatic performance that marked him as the youngest ever to qualify for the 5,000 metre event at just 19 years old. The thrill of heading to the Olympics was tempered by a mix of excitement and anxiety. The opportunity to represent his country on the world stage was beyond anything he had ever dreamed of. But the thought of travelling to Nazi Germany came with its own uncertainties. The political tensions surrounding the Berlin Games were well known, and he wondered what kind of reception awaited him there. Still, the anticipation outweighed his concerns. This was his chance to see the world, meet athletes from across the globe, and prove himself against the best. As he boarded the plane, this young runner from Torrance couldn't help but feel a surge of pride, mixed with nervous energy, ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead on the other side of the Atlantic. Arriving in Berlin, Zamperini was instantly struck by the grandeur of the city and the overwhelming scale of the 1936 Olympics. Germany had pulled out all the stops to showcase the nation's strength and unity, with towering stadiums, grand parades and state-of-the-art facilities. For a teenager from a small Californian town, it felt like stepping into a different world. The massive Olympic village, filled with athletes, buzzed with energy, and he found himself both fascinated and unsettled by the omnipresent swastikas and military pageantry. Still, the German people were friendly and hospitable, with some even going out of their way to encourage him in broken English. And his experiences left him with a complex mixture of admiration for the city's beauty and unease at the regime behind it. In the 5,000 metre race, he faced a formidable lineup, including the legendary Finnish runner Lauri Lehtinen. Though he didn't come away with a medal, finishing in 8th place, he achieved a remarkable feat on the final lap. Determined to leave his mark, he unleashed a blistering sprint, clocking an incredible 56 seconds for the last 400 metres, an unofficial record for the fastest lap in the event's Olympic history at the time. That electrifying finish earned him the admiration and respect from spectators and fellow athletes alike, including Adolf Hitler. At the finish line, a German official approached him, saying that Hitler himself wanted to meet the young American. Zamperini, still catching his breath, was led through a series of corridors to a private box where Hitler was seated. When Lewis approached, Hitler stood, extending his hand, and with a smile, through his translator, said, "You are the boy with the fast finish." The interaction was brief and polite, almost mundane in its simplicity, just a handshake and a few words. But it left a lasting impression on Zamperini. At the time, he didn't fully grasp the danger or the extent of Hitler's ambitions. Like many athletes, he saw the dictator as a figure of authority, but didn't yet understand the sinister ideologies he represented. Hitler's courteous demeanour, however, stood in stark contrast to the ominous atmosphere in Berlin, where propaganda and militaristic displays were everywhere. Though he recognised that the city seemed overly orchestrated and sensed an unsettling undercurrent, his thoughts were more on the race and his Olympic experience than on the darker realities unfolding around him. It wasn't until later, as the world plunged into war, that Zamperini would fully realise just how dangerous the man behind that polite smile really was. After the attack on Pearl Harbor in December of 1941, the reality of World War II came crashing down on the United States, galvanising a nation that had been watching the conflict unfold across Europe. Zamperini felt a deep sense of duty to serve his country in its time of need. In 1941 he enlisted in the US Army Air Corps, believing that joining the military would provide him with a chance to make a difference. As a bombardier on a B-24 Liberator, he was quickly thrust into the heart of the Pacific Theatre, where the intensity of combat contrasted sharply with the competitive spirit of his previous life as an athlete. Zamperini's first major assignment was with the crew of the Superman, a bomber engaged in search and rescue missions. The harrowing experiences in the air brought moments of camaraderie among the crew, yet the constant threat of enemy fire and mechanical failures created an ever-present tension. In May 1943, the tension was realised. While on a search mission for a downed aircraft, Zamperini's plane, the Green Hornet, suffered a catastrophic malfunction, leading to a crash in the unforgiving Pacific Ocean. Stranded on a life raft with two other survivors, his fight for survival began, pushing him to his limits and forcing him to confront the harshest challenges of life. After their harrowing crash into the Pacific Ocean, Zamperini and fellow survivors Russell Allen Phillips and Francis McNamara endured 47 grueling days adrift on a life raft. Battling the relentless sun, debilitating dehydration and starvation, the trio fought to survive under increasingly desperate conditions. They relied on catching rainwater and fish, but as days turned into weeks, their hope began to wane. Tragically, Mac succumbed to the harsh realities of their ordeal after 33 days, leaving Zamperini and Phillips to continue the fight for their lives. Their suffering finally came to an end when they were spotted by a Japanese military patrol boat. Instead of rescue, however, they found themselves captured and taken to Wake Island, where they were held for nearly 2 weeks in a makeshift prison camp. The conditions there were deplorable. They were given little food and were subjected to humiliating treatment by their captors. During this time, Zamperini and Phillips exchanged stories and encouraged each other, drawing strength from their shared experiences as they awaited their fate. After a harrowing period on Wake Island, they were ultimately transported to Japan, where Zamperini would face an even harsher reality as a prisoner of war, enduring brutal treatment and psychological torment that would test his resilience like never before. Upon arriving in Japan, Zamperini was initially held at a prisoner of war camp in Ofuna, located near Yokohama. The conditions in Ofuna were severe, marked by the extreme brutality and dehumanizing treatment. He and his fellow prisoners endured physical and psychological torture, subjected to constant beatings, starvation, and forced labour. The camp was notorious for its harsh regime, where guards often inflicted cruelty for minor infractions. Zamperini became a target for a particularly sadistic guard known as the Bird, who took interest in tormenting him, leading to a relentless campaign of abuse. Zamperini was held at Ofuna for over 2 years, from May 1943 until August 1945. During this time, he faced unimaginable hardships, but he also demonstrated remarkable resilience. He often drew strength from memories of his Olympic days, reminding himself of his survival instincts and determination to overcome adversity. The end of his ordeal came in August 1945, when Japan surrendered, leading to his eventual release. After spending time in a series of camps and undergoing the ordeal of war, he was finally liberated in September 1945, marking a bittersweet ending to his harrowing journey as a prisoner of war. The scars of his experiences would remain with him long after his return to civilian life, shaping the rest of his story as he grappled with the aftermath of his time in captivity. After his release in September 1945, Zamperini returned to the United States, where he faced the daunting challenge of reintegrating into civilian life. Although he was finally free, the scars of his experiences as a prisoner of war haunted him. He struggled with severe PTSD, which manifested as nightmares and flashbacks of his time in captivity. The transition was difficult, and he found himself plagued by anger and resentment, often turning to alcohol as a means of coping. He felt adrift. Determined to overcome his demons, he sought help and found solace in faith. In 1949, he attended a Billy Graham revival meeting, where he experienced a profound spiritual awakening. This newfound faith became a turning point in his life, providing him with a sense of purpose and direction. He went on to become a motivational speaker, sharing his story of resilience and forgiveness with audiences around the world. He also devoted himself to helping others, particularly veterans, grappling with their own struggles. In addition to his speaking engagements, Zamperini became an accomplished author. His memoir, Devil at My Heels, details his extraordinary life, including his Olympic journey, his harrowing experiences, and his path to healing. His book gained widespread acclaim, allowing him to reach even more people with his message of hope and redemption. Throughout his later years, Zamperini remained active in various charitable endeavours, promoting forgiveness and reconciliation while advocating for veterans' rights. Zamperini continued to live a remarkable life well into his later years, maintaining his commitment to sharing his story of resilience and hope. He became a sought-after motivational speaker, travelling across the country to inspire audiences with his messages. His remarkable journey captured the attention of filmmakers, and in 2014 the acclaimed movie Unbroken, directed by Angelina Jolie, was released. The film, based on Laura Hillenbrand's best-selling biography of the same name, chronicles Zamperini's life, from his Olympic aspirations to his harrowing experiences. Zamperini himself served as a consultant for the film, ensuring that his story was told authentically. Zamperini died at his home in California on July 2nd, 2014, at the age of 97. His passing marked the end of a remarkable life, filled with extraordinary experiences, from the Olympics to his harrowing experiences in World War II to becoming an advocate for peace and forgiveness. His legacy continues to impact many, which has been shared in books, films, and continues to inspire future generations.